Do you wish to say your final farewell?
I already buried him years ago.
They called it a perfect union. Lady Seraphina Vale, quiet, elegant, the daughter of a once powerful noble house, and Lord Edmund Vale, a man of wealth, influence, and a reputation so polished it gleamed like silver. Their wedding had been the event of the season. Silk draped from every pillar, music spilled into the gardens, and Seraphina stood still through it all, like a figure carved from ivory. People mistook her silence for grace. It wasn't grace, it was calculation. Because Seraphina had learned something very early in her marriage. A golden cage is still a cage. Edmund was not cruel in public. He laughed easily, donated generously, spoke gently, but behind closed doors, he controlled everything. Her letters, her movements, even the way she spoke. "You are my wife," he would say, adjusting her chin with 2 fingers. "And a wife reflects her husband. You will reflect me perfectly." And for 7 years, she did. The turning point came quietly. No screams, no shattered glass. Just a letter. It arrived late one evening, slipped beneath her chamber door. No seal, no name. Inside, a single line. "If you want freedom, meet me at the East Garden at midnight." Seraphina almost burned it. Almost. But something inside her, something buried beneath years of obedience, stirred. At midnight she went. A man stood beneath the cypress trees, tall, cloaked, still. "I was beginning to think you wouldn't come," he said. His voice was familiar, too familiar. When he stepped into the moonlight, her breath caught. Lucian, her brother. The brother everyone believed had died 5 years ago. Lucian did not embrace her. He didn't smile. He simply said, "I didn't die, Seraphina. I was made to disappear." And then he told her everything. Edmund Vale had orchestrated it. The accident, the false reports, the silence. Why? Because Lucian had discovered something dangerous. Edmund wasn't just a nobleman. He was building power quietly, ruthlessly, eliminating anyone who stood in his way, including family. Seraphina felt something shift inside her. Not shock, not grief. Something colder, clearer. For the first time in years, she understood the game. "You can leave with me," Lucian said. "Tonight." Seraphina looked back toward the towering silhouette of Vale Manor. Leave? Run? Hide? No. She had lived in silence long enough. "I'm not leaving," she said quietly. Lucian frowned. "Then what are you doing?" She turned back to him, and for the first time her eyes were not soft. "They think I am powerless," she said. "Let them keep thinking that." That night Seraphina made a decision. She would not escape the cage. She would burn it down from the inside. The next morning nothing had changed. She poured Edmund's tea, walked beside him in the gardens, smiled when expected. But now, she was watching, listening, learning. She memorized his schedules, noted his allies, tracked his secrets. And Edmund? He never noticed. Because men like Edmund never look closely at things they believe they already own. Weeks later, the first crack appeared. A business partner of Edmund's, Lord Hargrove, was found disgraced overnight. Accounts exposed, debts revealed, reputation destroyed. Edmund was furious. "Someone is interfering," he snapped. Seraphina placed a calming hand on his arm. "How unfortunate," she said gently. But inside, she was counting. 1. Edmund began to change, less controlled, more suspicious. One night he grabbed her wrist too tightly. "Have you been speaking to anyone?" he demanded. Seraphina met his gaze without flinching. "Only to you." It was the truth, just not the whole truth. One by one, Edmund's allies fell. Secrets leaked, deals collapsed, trust eroded. Each move was precise, invisible, and always traced back to someone else. Never her. Lucian watched from the shadows, astonished. "You've become someone I don't recognize," he told her once. Seraphina's expression didn't change. "No," she said quietly. "I've become someone I was never allowed to be." But Edmund was not a fool. Eventually, he began to suspect, not her, but something. So he tightened his control. Locked doors, restricted movement, watched her more closely, and that's when Seraphina made her boldest move. She let him think he had won. She grew quieter, more obedient, even fragile, until one evening she collapsed at dinner. The physicians were called. She is weak, they said, exhausted, possibly poisoned. Edmund froze. Poisoned? Yes, my lord, slowly, over time. That night Edmund did something he had never done before. He sat beside her bed, watching, waiting. For the first time, he looked afraid. Days passed. Seraphina grew weaker, or so it seemed, until one night. She opened her eyes and spoke. You always said I reflected you perfectly. Edmund leaned forward. Rest, Seraphina. No, she whispered. This is the first honest thing I've ever said to you. He stilled. Something in her voice was different. Not soft, not obedient, sharp. I learned from you, she said, how to lie, how to control, how to destroy without being seen. Edmund's expression darkened. What are you saying? She smiled, the same smile she would wear at his funeral. I am saying, she whispered, you taught me very. The next morning, Edmund Vale was arrested. Charges surfaced overnight. Documents appeared. Witnesses spoke. Everything he had built collapsed in a matter of hours. And Seraphina? She recovered, miraculously. When Edmund died in custody weeks later, the kingdom mourned. A great man fallen. A tragedy. But at the funeral, all eyes turned to Seraphina, dressed in black, veil lowered, still. The priest spoke softly. Would you like to say your final farewell? She lifted her veil and smiled. I already buried him years ago. After the funeral, Seraphina left Vale Manor. Not in disgrace, not in fear, but in quiet power. Lucian met her at the gates. It's over, he said. Seraphina looked back once, at the place that had once been her prison. No, she said softly. It's just beginning. And with that, she walked forward. Not as a wife, not as a widow, but as a woman no one would ever underestimate again. Every secret has a price, and every story hides a truth. If you crave tales that stir your soul, don't forget to subscribe.